The sky above the planet Eloria glowed with pale violet light as Celera, the youngest daughter of the High Council, walked toward the Grand Hall. Her steps were slow, weighed down by dread. Today, she would be forced into a marriage she never chose. The Council had spoken. Her crime, though minor by human standards, was enough to punish her. And the punishment? She was to wed a human from Earth, an outsider whose presence on Eloria was forbidden for most. Celera's heart pounded in her chest. She had heard stories about humans. They were unpredictable, rough, and often violent. But worse than that, she feared the Council's judgment. Her people had always looked at her with admiration for her intelligence and grace, yet now, they watched her as if she were a criminal. The hall was filled with dignitaries, alien nobles, and members of the Council. Their eyes followed her as she walked, whispering among themselves. She felt like a caged bird, knowing there was no way to escape. At the end of the hall stood Ethan. He looked ordinary, almost too ordinary, in his human way. His brown hair fell slightly into his eyes, and he wore simple clothes that made him look out of place among the glittering attire of the aliens. Yet, there was something in his calm gaze that made her pause. He wasn't afraid, nor was he mocking. He simply looked at her, as if he could see straight into her soul. The ceremony began. The Council chanted the old words, binding their fates together. Celera felt her hands trembling as she reached for Ethan's. Their fingers touched, lightly at first, and she recoiled. I cannot do this, she whispered. Ethan tilted his head slightly, a small smile playing at the corner of his lips. You don't have to, he said softly. Not yet. But right now, we have to start. His voice was different from what she had imagined. Gentle, patient, strangely comforting. As the Council watched, waiting for a reaction, she felt a spark, small, fleeting, but undeniable, between them. Days passed, and life in the Council's palace was unbearable. Celera had been trained in the ways of diplomacy, strategy, and science, but she had never faced someone like Ethan. He did not bow to her commands, nor did he try to impress her. He simply observed, learned, and occasionally made a joke that made her forget, just for a moment, the weight of her punishment. One evening, as they were walking along the palace gardens under the violet sky, a sudden attack shook the grounds. Rogue creatures from the wilderness had breached the walls, and chaos erupted. Celera froze, unsure of what to do. Humans, she had thought, were weak, unable to survive the dangers that Eloria presented. Ethan grabbed her hand firmly. Stay behind me, he said. In a swift motion, he drew a strange device from his belt and activated it. A shield of bright light appeared, deflecting the first wave of creatures. Celera's eyes widened. Humans were not helpless. Humans could be extraordinary. Together, they fought their way to safety. Celera felt adrenaline coursing through her veins, her fears slowly turning into admiration. She noticed the way Ethan's eyes never left her, the way he made sure she was safe before focusing on the enemies. His touch, once a symbol of her punishment, now felt protective, comforting. After the attack, in the quiet of the garden, Celera turned to him. Why did you risk yourself for me? She asked. Ethan's hand brushed against hers, lingering just enough to send warmth through her. Because you matter, he said simply. Not because of your title, or your people, or the Council. You! For the first time, Celera felt something she had never known, trust. Not blind trust, but a deep sense of connection. The punishment that had once felt like chains was slowly turning into something entirely different. Days became weeks, and their bond grew stronger. They trained together, learning each other's strengths and weaknesses. Celera taught Ethan about Elorian science and culture, while Ethan shared human ingenuity and resilience. They laughed, argued, and sometimes just sat in silence, watching the twin moons rise. One night, under the glow of the moons, Celera finally allowed herself to feel what she had been denying. She leaned against Ethan's shoulder, letting him wrap his arm around her. I thought I would hate this, she whispered. Ethan kissed her forehead gently. Hate what? This, being with you, she admitted, her voice trembling. I thought it would be unbearable. He smiled, pressing his forehead against hers. "Maybe the punishment wasn't what you expected," he said. "Maybe it was meant to bring us together." Celera felt a warmth bloom in her chest, a sensation stronger than fear, stronger than anger. She realized that the council's punishment had led her to something she never could have imagined. But peace was fragile. News came from the outskirts of Eloria. Rebels, furious at the council's decisions, were marching toward the city. Celera and Ethan knew they had to act. They couldn't simply hide behind walls or obey commands. They had to fight, together, for the survival of their people. In the battlefield, Celera watched Ethan move with precision and courage. Each time his hand found hers, she felt a surge of confidence. His touch had changed everything, not just her perception of him, but of herself. She was no longer just a punished counselor's daughter, she was a fighter, a strategist, a partner in every sense. The battle was fierce. Creatures clashed with rebels, and chaos threatened to consume the city. But with Ethan by her side, Celera felt invincible. They moved as one, their combined knowledge and courage turning the tide. When the dust finally settled, the city was scarred but intact, the council's authority reinforced not by fear, but by the undeniable strength of this unlikely pair. After the battle, in the quiet aftermath, Celera looked at Ethan. The punishment, the fear, the doubt, it all felt distant now. She smiled, a genuine, unrestrained smile. "I don't hate this anymore," she said. Ethan grinned, brushing a strand of violet hair from her face. "Neither do I," he replied. For the first time, Celera realized that sometimes, punishment could lead to unexpected gifts. That a single touch, an act of courage, or a simple word could change everything. And in Ethan, she had found not just a partner, but a new beginning. As the twin moons rose above Eloria, Celera took a deep breath. Life was unpredictable, dangerous, and often unfair, but with him by her side, she knew she could face anything. And so, the punished bride and the human from Earth began a story no council could have ever written, a story of trust, courage, and a love that changed the fate of a planet. Subscribe to HFY Vault for more tales of human courage and interstellar adventures.